Hello everyone, welcome to the underbelly of Carrow Road. Mix zone is just in here, by the way. That's the mix zone, and there where we speak to all the players. They come through, opposition players as well. It is a bit windy, so apologies for that. I just thought you'd probably be able to show it, but this is where the Liverpool players come out to meet the team, and lots of. Here we go. Lots of autograph hunters in there, and they get quite noisy about trying to beg the players to stop. So there we go. Anyway, Norwich have lost 1-0 to Liverpool here. I don't really want to go outside because it's really windy, so I might try inside in here. There's the ground. There's Mr. Holker walking off. I might even do it in the mix. I think that'd be a good idea. But yes, Norwich have lost here 1-0 to the champions-elect, the European champions, the world champions. And quite clearly, the fact they've only lost 1-0 is in some way a small triumph. The goal came in 78 minutes, I think, just 12 minutes from the end. Off the top of my head, I might have got that slightly wrong, but that's pretty close. They pushed them hard. Norwich played in a similar way to how they dealt with Manchester City, because they countered well when they got the opportunity. In fact, they grew in belief, I think, doing that as the game wore on. Liverpool had lots of possession and territory, but they were actually kind of limited in what they were allowed to do, and likewise they were trying to probably force the issue a little bit. I still feel they had a couple of gears to go through, but were at least kept at bay for a few minutes. So it's so windy. There you go, it's up now. So there were lots of things for Norwich to be positive in terms of what they forced Liverpool into doing, and they worked really hard. They sat a bit deeper. Oh, it's horrible. There's literally no point in me going out there. So they sat really deeply, but countered well and with good purpose, and they used the ball quite well when they had it. But it's quite clear that Liverpool had, as I said, they had the gears, and I think Norwich were obviously relying on Liverpool missing chances, and they did miss a fair few of them, and probably doing something special in return, which was slightly different because, of course, against Manchester City, they were a lot more open at the back and made bigger mistakes that Norwich could punish and take advantage of when you looked at how Norwich countered that day. And it feels right to compare those two performances because Norwich are playing exceptional sides, regardless of where the levels were at. So it's fair to do that. And I don't really want to sit here and say, well, if Norwich play like this against other sides, they'll do blah, 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 because it's not about that. They're separate challenges, and they're challenges that Norwich, there you go, nice background. They're challenges that Norwich have to deal with in their own right. You can't just constantly be reflecting on them and comparing them. So there's lots really to think about off the back of this. There were some good performances tonight. Jamal Lewis came in sort of midway through the first half after Sam Byram picked up a hamstring injury. It sounds like quite a bad one. It was quite a sharp pain by all accounts. Daniel does sometimes accentuate an injury when it happens, so we'll hope it's not maybe as bad as it sounds, but he did leave the ground on crutches, and it was quite a sharp pain, which sort of makes you think that it might have been quite a nasty tear. So we will see, but if he's missing for a couple of months, then that's most of the rest of the season. Jamal Lewis did well, as I said, when he came in, but that's clearly a blow. Emi Buendia didn't start. Daniel didn't change the side, and it was curious, really, that was the case, but maybe not so much that. And I don't really mind Daniel doing this up to me, obviously, but I don't mind Daniel necessarily starting that lineup, and I can see why Lucas Rupp as a starting point is a good point. But that you do sometimes feel like there has to be a slightly more proactive way of dealing with the game. It was very finely balanced, so you can understand that. But a player like Emi Buendia, who I know also had a few duff touches when he came on, but in a way, if you come on with 7 minutes to go, you're probably going to try and force the issue because you've only got 7 minutes. I mean, ultimately, if you give a player 20 minutes, then they'll probably feel under less pressure to do so much in a short space of time. So it's almost self-fulfilling in a way. I thought Andre Duda, everything I've heard and read about him beforehand and from people I've spoken to, and then what I've seen, you see a player who drifts in and out of games but has the quality to make a match-winning impact. So that kind of emphasises why he stays on. But by the same token, on 70 minutes, could Emi Buendia have come on then and sat in the number 10 role, yeah, I would have said so. And I just feel like Daniel maybe fears what there is to lose sometimes when he doesn't really need to. He can be proactive with the change. And I have to say, what's really frustrating is Liverpool score and then within a few minutes Daniel makes a double change, and you're like, well, could you have done that before? But it's not quite as bad as Chris Hughton, who used to have the double change lined up and then because it's been lined up for 10 minutes and then the opposition score and then they come on, which used to really rile me. So there we go. Liverpool are a very good side. I do feel they had several gears to go into, so it's kind of hard to judge on what they'll do. They've clearly had a lot within them. They've got a phenomenally talented squad. There were vulnerabilities there from what we saw tonight, but whether they continue to be vulnerabilities going forward, you'd have to maybe keep him in balance and see what happens. But they're a phenomenal side, and it was a pleasure to watch players. It's fascinating to see you so busy looking at what they're doing in the middle of the pitch and all the options they have and the movement, and then all of a sudden Mo Salah is on the far side in about 20 yards of space, and you're like, oh yeah, there's him too. And that was noticeable in the first half, when Liverpool probably did try and force the issue a little bit too much and do things in conditions which were horrible and probably had them second guessing what was the best thing to do. And it really was such a swirly wind, you couldn't really tell which way it was going or which way it was going to go, and actually got up and up in terms of velocity as he came more on, to the point where people were really struggling with dealing things at the end, and Tim Krul admitted it too. Tim Krul pulled off a fantastic double save, by the way, in front of Ronald Koeman. I knew that Ronald Koeman was here yesterday because I parked next to him at Colney, and I think he had a chat with Tim Krul then, and obviously then watched the game tonight. Of course, Ronald would also been able to watch Virgil van Dijk and Gini Wijnaldum, but it's great for Tim that he is playing so well, and he's been probably the most consistent performer Norwich have had all season, and he's got a great opportunity to be involved in the Euros, certainly in maybe the international break coming up in March. I think his form deserves that. It was a phenomenal double save in the second half, and I think Tim was kind of hoping that might have been his clean sheet secured there. Bearing in mind Liverpool have only dropped 2 points all season, it's phenomenal. They will soon have the title wrapped up for sure. Norwich have got a lot more still to fight for and work on, but there was some really good belief in and around the place. Probably there would be in a game like this that was going in a positive and encouraging way. Norwich have just got to bottle it up and perform at this level, and then just ensure that the fine margins go in their favour in the coming games. They are going to need to do that in the ones that are going to be much trickier coming up, so that is of course Wolves away and Leicester at home, before Norwich then get into a run of fixtures that they will deem a bit more winnable. Several of them down here. It's going to take a lot to do it, but we might as well still believe while we're here, and away we go. It'll be nice to get back to proper weeks rather than all this broken up winter break nonsense, which is really only a few days off. So there we go. And just so I make sure I don't forget, the goal, by the way, was a suggestion. I think Norwich wanted a foul on Christoph Zimmermann for a push in the back. Never going to be given. It's a brilliantly taken goal from Sadio Mane, who of course came off from the bench in the second half. Not bad that you've got a player like that you can bring on. Norwich's best chance came in the first half. Lucas Rupp, I don't think he did beat the offside track. I think it'd be a trap. I think it'd been flagged offside if VAR had a look at it, and he just couldn't quite square it to Pukki. But Alisson Becker did very well coming out and closing the angle as well. So that was as close as Norwich got, really. Thank you all for watching, as always. Unlucky Alex Tetty for hitting the post, because that was a wonderful opportunity. I don't feel like... I thought Grant Hanley was excellent and nominated Player of the Month for January, or one Player of the Month for January, which I thought was bang on. He's been excellent, and he wouldn't be the centre-back I would drop at the moment. And Ben Godfrey was back on the bench, so that will be an interesting dynamic over the coming weeks. We go to Wolves, of course, on on Sunday. I will see you at Molineux. In the meantime, look after yourselves. There'll be lots of stories up on theathletic.com, so keep an eye out for those. A couple of good ones coming up. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. There'll be a code in the notes on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whichever. Thank you for your support. Leave a comment and a like and say what you want. I'll read them. I always read them and also reply as and where I can. And in the meantime, have a cracking week. See you later.